He should not have said it out loud. But once the words left her mouth, there was no taking them back. "You're fired." That was how my CEO ended a 2-year career in 5 seconds. No warning, no explanation. Just those 2 words, delivered across a polished conference table, while HR sat beside her pretending to study a piece of paper. I remember staring at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for someone to admit this was some kind of mistake. It wasn't. Her face was the same calm mask I had seen in board meetings and investor calls. Perfect posture, perfect voice, no emotion. "Your position here is no longer a cultural fit," she added. Cultural fit. 2 years of late nights. 2 years of missed weekends. 2 years of work that kept the company running while other people collected the promotions. Reduced to 2 words and a corporate phrase. I didn't argue. That surprised them. HR looked up like she had prepared for a fight. Maybe she expected me to beg. Maybe she expected anger. Instead, I reached slowly into my pocket, pulled out my security badge, and placed it on the table. The plastic card made a small sound when it touched the wood. A tiny sound for something that had taken half my life for 2 years. I looked at my CEO one last time, and for a brief second I saw something strange in her eyes. Not anger, not regret. Fear. The moment passed so quickly I almost thought I imagined it. HR cleared her throat. "Security will escort you to collect your belongings." I nodded once and stood. The room felt smaller than it had 5 minutes earlier. As I reached the door, her voice stopped me. "Wait!" I turned. For the first time since the meeting started, she looked directly at me, not through me, at me. "Did you really think that message was appropriate?" she asked quietly. There it was, the reason. The thing that had detonated my career sometime around midnight the night before. My phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I had been half asleep on the couch after another 14-hour day. The notification lit up my screen. Her name. My CEO. That alone was strange enough. She never texted employees directly. Everything went through assistants or official channels. I picked up the phone thinking it might be a crisis at work. Instead, I saw 3 words. "See what you could have had." And underneath them, a photo. I didn't open it. Not right away. My thumb hovered over the screen while my brain tried to process what I was seeing. This had to be a mistake. A wrong chat. A glitch. Because the person who sent it was the last person on earth who should ever send something like that. She was married. Respected. The kind of executive who ran a multi-million-dollar company with ice in her voice and absolute control in every room she walked into. People straightened their backs when she entered meetings. People lowered their voices. She was untouchable. And now, my phone was telling me she had just sent me something that could destroy both of us. Before I could decide what to do, the phone buzzed again. A second message. Wrong chat. Ignore that. Too late. The damage was already done. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I opened the photo. And that was when my stomach dropped. Not because it was tempting. Because it explained everything. Every promotion that skipped over people. Every sudden resignation. Every rumor that disappeared before it reached HR. Every person who had quietly left the company after refusing to play along. In one image, the entire pattern made sense. This wasn't a mistake. This was a test. I sat there in the quiet of my apartment, staring at my phone, while 1,000 possibilities ran through my head. I could delete it, pretend nothing happened. Play the long game. That's what people always say about corporate survival. Keep your head down. Don't challenge power. Don't make enemies. But something inside me had already broken long before that message arrived. Maybe it was the night I slept under my desk to finish a project she later presented as her own. Maybe it was the birthday dinner I missed with my sister because she scheduled a, quote, last-minute strategy meeting. Or maybe it was the promotion she promised me 6 months earlier. Next quarter, she had said, prove yourself a little more. So I proved it, again, and again, and again. Until midnight that night when my CEO accidentally revealed the real promotion system. My phone still rested in my hand, the message thread open, waiting. I knew what silence meant in this situation. Silence meant acceptance. Silence meant I was willing to pretend the photo never existed. Silence meant I understood the rules. Instead, I typed, slowly, carefully. No insults, no threats, just the truth. I didn't miss out. I paused for a moment, then finished the sentence. I chose integrity. And I'm glad I did. 3 dots appeared on the screen, then disappeared, then appeared again, then vanished completely. 30 seconds later, my phone rang. Her name on the screen. I didn't answer, and 12 hours later, I was standing in that conference room, fired. Now my CEO was looking at me across the table, waiting for an explanation. "Did you really think that message was appropriate?" she asked again. I met her eyes. For the first time since I started working at that company, I spoke to her without fear. "No," I said calmly. It was honest. The room went completely silent. HR stopped writing. My CEO leaned back slightly in her chair. And in that moment I realized something strange. She wasn't angry because of my reply. She was angry because it proved something she didn't want anyone to prove, that someone inside her company could still say no. But what none of us knew in that room that morning was that my reply had already started something much bigger than a termination, because somewhere else in the company, someone else had also received a message, and they hadn't stayed silent either. The elevator doors closed behind me with a soft metallic sound. That was the moment it became real. Not when HR slid the termination paper across the table. Not when my CEO said the words. When the elevator doors closed. Because that sound meant there was no walking back upstairs. 2 years of my life had just ended on the 18th floor. I stared at my reflection in the mirrored wall of the elevator. My tie was still straight. My shirt still pressed. I looked exactly like the same employee who had walked into the building that morning. Except now I was unemployed. When the elevator reached the lobby, the security guard gave me a polite nod, the same nod he had given me every morning for 2 years. Except today he added something new. "Sorry, man." I nodded back once and walked outside. The air felt strange, like the city was still moving at full speed while my world had slammed into a wall. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a second I wondered if it was her again. It wasn't. Just a banking alert reminding me my rent was due in 10 days. Perfect timing. I sat on a bench across the street from the building and looked up at the glass tower that had swallowed most of my life for the past 2 years. I had believed in that company, not the slogans on the website, not the motivational posters in the break room. I believed in the work. When I joined, the company had been expanding fast. Everyone talked about innovation, growth, opportunity. And at the center of it all was her, our CEO. She had a reputation that bordered on myth. The woman who built the company from a small startup into a multi-million-dollar empire before she turned 40. Sharp mind. Impossible standards. People said if she noticed your work, your career could skyrocket overnight. I believe that too. The first time she called me into her office, I thought my life was about to change. "Your work is impressive," she said, flipping through a report I had spent 3 sleepless nights preparing. No smile, no warmth, just precision. I like employees who understand pressure. I remember walking out of that office feeling 10 feet tall, because when someone like her notices you, it feels like validation, like proof that all those long nights matter. What I didn't realize was that attention from someone like her came with a price. Over the next 2 years, the pattern became clear. She noticed people. She pushed them harder than anyone else. Some thrived under the pressure. Others disappeared quietly. Promotions came suddenly for certain employees. Raises happened fast. But the same rumor followed those promotions every time. No one ever said it out loud. They didn't have to. You could see it in the way people avoided eye contact when someone climbed too quickly. You could hear it in the jokes whispered near the coffee machine. Guess they passed the interview. I never believed it, not fully, until 11:47 p.m., until that message lit up my phone. See what you could have had. And that photo. Even now, the memory made my stomach tighten. I pulled my phone out and opened the message thread again. The image was still there. I hadn't deleted it. Not because I wanted to keep it, because something about it felt important. Evidence of something I couldn't fully explain yet. My reply sat beneath it. Short, calm. A single sentence that had apparently cost me my job. I chose integrity. And I'm glad I did. At the time, it didn't feel brave. It felt tired, like a man who had finally reached the end of his patience. But sitting there on that bench, something else began to bother me. Her reaction. That look in the conference room. It hadn't been the expression of someone caught doing something wrong. It had been the look of someone whose plan didn't work. And that meant something about the situation still didn't add up. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text message. Unknown number. For a second I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. The message was simple. You got the message too, didn't you? I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed carefully. Who is this? The reply came almost immediately. Someone who also said no. A chill ran down my spine. I looked back up at the glass building across the street. For 2 years I had believed I was the only one being pushed harder than everyone else. The only one stuck in that endless loop of prove yourself more. But now a strange thought crept into my mind. What if I wasn't the only one who had received that message? My phone buzzed again. Another text. They fired you too, right? I didn't answer right away. Because the question itself told me something important. This wasn't the first time. Finally, I typed back. Yes, this morning. 3 dots appeared. Then the next message came. Welcome to the club. I leaned back against the bench slowly. The city noise blurred around me. Cars passing, people talking, a bus braking loudly at the corner. But inside my head there was only one thought repeating itself. How many of us were there? Another message arrived. Did you keep the screenshot? Now my pulse started to rise. Yes, why? The response took longer this time. Nearly a full minute passed. Then the message appeared. Because you're going to need it. I felt a strange heaviness settle in my chest. For the first time since the meeting that morning, my firing no longer felt like the end of something. It felt like the beginning. I typed one more question. What do you mean? The reply came with a photo attachment. Not the kind my CEO had sent. This one was a screenshot. Another message thread. Another employee. Another late-night text from the same number. The same 3 words. See what you could have had. Underneath it was a different reply. 4 words this time. This is inappropriate. And below that message, a termination email timestamped 3 days later. My stomach tightened. Suddenly, the rumors around the office didn't sound like rumors anymore. They sounded like a pattern. My phone buzzed again. There are 5 of us so far, the message said. 5. 5 employees who had received the same message. 5 people who said no. 5 people who were suddenly no longer working at the company. I looked back at the skyscraper again. For 2 years, I thought I had been fighting for recognition inside that building. But now it looked different. Now it looked like something else entirely. A machine. One that rewarded silence and punished anyone who refused to play along. My phone buzzed one more time. Someone contacted a lawyer today. I read the message twice. Then a second message arrived. If they call you, answer. I stared at the screen. Because suddenly the message I had sent the night before wasn't just a reply anymore. It was evidence. And if 5 of us already existed, how many more had simply deleted the message and stayed quiet? Across the street, the windows of the building reflected the afternoon sun. Cold, shiny, untouchable. But for the first time since I walked out of that conference room, I had the strange feeling that something inside that building had just cracked. And if it had, my reply might have been the thing that broke it. 3 days passed before the lawyer called. Not an email, not a message, a call. I was sitting at my kitchen table staring at my laptop, pretending to job hunt when my phone buzzed with another unknown number. For a moment, I thought about letting it go to voicemail. The last time I answered an unknown number, it ended with me unemployed. But something told me this call was different. I picked up. "Hello?" A calm woman's voice answered. "Hi, is this Daniel?" "Yes." "My name is Laura Chen. I'm calling from Halbrook Legal. I believe you may have received a message from your former CEO recently." My stomach tightened. So the message had already traveled farther than I expected. "Yes," I said slowly. There was a pause on the line, like she was measuring my voice. "Did you keep it?" Quote. I looked down at my phone on the table. The message thread was still there. Untouched. "Yes." Another pause. Then she said something that made my heart start beating faster. "You're not the only one." I leaned back in my chair. "I know," I said. "We've spoken with 4 other former employees so far. 5, including me." "Exactly what the anonymous texter had said," Laura continued. "What you received appears to be part of a pattern. Late-night messages, suggestive photos, followed by retaliation if the recipient refuses to engage." Hearing it said out loud made the situation feel heavier, more real. I had spent the last few days convincing myself maybe it was just one bad decision, one moment of poor judgment. But a pattern meant something else entirely. "How many?" I asked quietly. "More than we expected," she said. Then she added something that made my chest tighten. "And we believe there are others who haven't come forward yet." That didn't surprise me. Corporate culture teaches people one rule above all others: protect your job. Protect your paycheck. Protect your future, even if it means staying quiet. Laura spoke again. "Would you be willing to provide a copy of the message you received?" "Yes," I said immediately. "Good," she replied. Then her voice softened slightly. "I should also tell you something important." I waited. "The reply you sent." My stomach dropped. "Yes?" "It may be the strongest piece of evidence we have." I frowned. "Why?" "Because you refused, clearly, calmly, without provocation." I thought back to that moment on my couch, typing slowly, choosing each word carefully. I didn't miss out. I chose integrity. Laura continued. "In cases like this, the defense often argues the communication was consensual or misinterpreted. I understood immediately, but my message shows a clear boundary," she finished. The room fell silent for a second. Then she said something else that surprised me, and it triggered her reaction. "You mean firing me?" "Yes." "Retaliation." The word hung in the air between us. Laura's voice became more professional again. "We're building a timeline. Every message, every termination, every promotion connected to this behavior." Quote. My mind flashed back through 2 years of memories. Employees who disappeared suddenly, quiet resignations, promotions that made people whisper. "What happens next?" I asked. "That depends on how many people are willing to speak." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "I'll send the screenshot today." "Thank you," she said. Then before ending the call, she added one last thing. "You did the right thing." The call ended, and for a long moment I just sat there staring at the wall. Because that sentence sounded nice. But right now it didn't change the reality. I was still unemployed. My savings were shrinking. And the woman who fired me was still running a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Justice is slow. Rent is not. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet. I applied to dozens of jobs. Some interviews went well. Others ended the moment they saw the reason I left my previous company: cultural misalignment. Corporate code for troublemaker. Meanwhile, the lawyer emailed occasionally asking small questions: dates, meetings, names of coworkers who might have witnessed things. And slowly a picture began forming. 6 employees. then 8, then 11, each with a nearly identical story. Late-night message, suggestive photo. If they ignored it, another message followed. If they declined, politely. Their career at the company ended within weeks, but there was something else I noticed, something strange. Not everyone who received the message was fired. Some people stayed, and those people climbed the fastest. Director roles, senior leadership, massive raises. Suddenly, the rumor from the break room didn't sound like gossip anymore. It sounded like math. One evening, about 2 months after my termination, Laura called again. Her voice sounded different this time. Focused. "Daniel, I wanted to give you an update." I sat up straighter. "Okay." "We filed." "Filed what?" "A formal complaint." My heart began beating faster, with the board of directors and the regulatory authority. I leaned back slowly. "And?" "There will be an investigation." The word echoed in my head. Investigation. For the first time since losing my job, the balance of power had shifted slightly. Not enough to feel safe, but enough to matter. "What about her?" I asked quietly. Laura understood immediately. "The CEO?" "Yes." There was a pause. Then she answered carefully. "Right now, she's still in her position. Still running the company, still making decisions, still appearing in interviews talking about leadership and company values." I felt a strange mix of anger and exhaustion. 2 years of loyalty, erased in 5 minutes. Yet she still had the corner office. Laura spoke again. "But that may not last." "What makes you say that?" "Because we're not the only ones asking questions anymore." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" She answered calmly. "The board has started its own internal review." Corporate language. But I understood what it meant. When boards investigate CEOs, something has already gone very wrong. Before hanging up, Laura said something else. "Keep your phone on." "Why?" "Because things may start moving quickly." Quote, "That night I sat in my apartment staring at the same phone that had started this entire mess. One accidental message, 3 words, a photo, and a single reply that cost me my career. At least that's what I thought at the time. But now something new had entered the story. Momentum. And somewhere inside the company that had fired me, people were starting to look at the same message I received. Only now they weren't asking why I replied. They were asking a much bigger question. How long had this been happening? And how many careers had been destroyed to keep it quiet? Because once that question starts spreading inside a company, it's only a matter of time before someone at the top falls. The email arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. No warning. No dramatic headline. Just a short subject line sitting in my inbox while I drank coffee at my kitchen table. Company leadership update. For a moment, I almost ignored it. I had stopped following the company weeks earlier. Watching their success from the outside had been like pressing on a bruise that refused to heal. But something made me open it. The message was short, corporate, carefully written. The board of directors had accepted the resignation of the CEO effective immediately. No explanation, no details, just a polite thank you for her leadership and a note about an interim replacement. I read the email twice, then a third time. 6 months ago, that woman had the power to end my career in a 5-minute meeting. Now her name had vanished from the company website overnight. No farewell speech, no press conference, just silence. My phone buzzed on the table. "Laura." I answered immediately. "I saw the email," I said. Her voice carried a quiet satisfaction. "Yes." The board concluded their investigation this morning. I leaned back in my chair slowly. "What happened?" "They confirmed the pattern," she said. My chest tightened. "How many?" Another pause. Then she answered, 17. 17 employees had received messages like mine. 17 careers pushed to the edge of a choice. Play along or disappear. Some refused, some didn't. And every single message had come from the same phone, Laura continued. The board didn't make the findings public. Companies rarely do. Of course they didn't. Scandals cost investors money. But that didn't change the truth. They asked for her resignation. Laura finished, and she agreed. The most powerful woman in the building had left quietly through the same doors everyone else used. No spotlight, no applause. Just another person carrying a box to the elevator. I pictured that moment, and something strange happened inside me. I didn't feel victorious. I felt calm. Because the real victory had happened months earlier on my couch at 11:47 p.m. The moment I chose to reply honestly. Laura spoke again. There's something else. What? The investigation helped several former employees receive settlements. That didn't surprise me. Companies are very good at solving problems quietly. What about me? I asked. You declined financial action when we discussed it. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Money would have been nice, but it wasn't the reason I had replied that night. No regrets, I said. Laura sounded thoughtful. You may want to reconsider that. Why? Because the board specifically mentioned your message. My brow tightened. What do you mean? They described it as the moment the pattern became undeniable. For a second I didn't speak. The reply I sent without thinking had become the line that changed everything. Laura's voice softened slightly. You gave people courage. The call ended a few minutes later. I sat quietly for a while. Then I opened my laptop and checked something I had been trying not to obsess over for weeks. My job applications. Most were still unanswered. A few polite rejections. And one new email sitting at the top of the inbox. Subject line: Interview feedback. My stomach tightened slightly as I opened it. The company had been one of the places I interviewed with 2 weeks earlier. A smaller firm. Different industry. But the interview had felt honest. The email was short. They wanted to offer me the position. Higher salary. Better title. More responsibility. But one sentence near the end caught my attention. We admire professionals who maintain their values under pressure. I read that line twice, because suddenly everything made sense. The termination, the investigation, the months of uncertainty. None of it had destroyed my career. It had revealed something about it. My phone buzzed again. A message this time. Unknown number. I opened it cautiously. It was a short message. I heard what happened. Thank you. No name. No explanation. But I understood immediately. Someone else from that list of 17. Someone who had also received that message. Someone who had also been forced to make a choice. I typed back slowly. You didn't know anyone's silence. 3 dots appeared. Then the final reply came. Neither did you. I placed the phone down and looked out the window. 6 months ago, I believe that photo had shown me what I missed out on. A faster promotion. A better career. An easier path. But sitting there in my apartment with a new job offer waiting, and a quiet peace I hadn't felt in years, I realized something. That photo didn't show me what I lost. It showed me the price. And the truth is, some promotions are just another word for compromise. Some success stories are built on silence, and some careers grow faster the moment you refuse to sell your integrity. My CEO once sent me a photo to show me what I could have had. But losing that job, that's how I finally got everything I actually deserved. Because some victories don't look like promotions. Some victories look like walking away. And staying the kind of person who can still look at himself in the mirror the next morning.